Widening social rifts define our era, driven by indignant anger and manipulation through engineered fear and division. To move forward and heal, we need secure men and strong women. But more importantly, we must learn how to listen to each other. As I asked women around me how I could help, I started to understand that the idea I once considered a conclusion was only the beginning.
Women want to be heard, but it's not enough yet. So don't just hear us, but hear us when we say that everything that's happening is not enough to treat us as fully valuable, fully worthy human beings, equal in every way to men.
A unified answer that branches out into infinite diversity, with one common factor. The people not listening tend to be men.
But women cannot make men listen, and certainly cannot integrate what they hear into understanding and action. Only men can do that for themselves.
So if men can't listen to women, LGBTQ+, minority groups, or other people with different perspectives, maybe they can listen to a man having a conversation with these people. I'm inviting you into my journey to become a better listener and meet some intriguing people along the way. Welcome to the If Men Can't Listen To podcast, where I have decided to get ahead of the curve and jump the shark and just get it out of the way with a crossover episode. Go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. It's Colleen, your friendly neighborhood abortion influencer is how I introduce myself. But my name is Colleen Luckett, and I am also sort of interviewing or talking to, we're just like going to have a conversation, right, with Shane. And it kind of came about with, let's see, we're both on Instagram, and Shane reached out, and I think you followed me and said, hey, I know this might be kind of out of the blue or random, but would you like to be on my podcast? And you explained about it a little bit. And I was like, this is fantastic. This is an amazing idea. And you know what? I call myself a proud feminist, and I know a lot of men don't consider themselves feminists, but that is such a feminist move, like your whole podcast is such a, like, women are whole beings. And I just really appreciated that. I'm going to shut up and just say, this is Shane. If we have this crossover.
I was a very, very, I appreciate the introduction. I usually don't get that. And yeah, the feminist thing, I've told the story before, but I mean, maybe not to you. I had two kids that were born female, and I went from being pretty strong, having pretty strong feelings about human rights, to assessing all the things that were going to get in their way in them succeeding at life and having a whole and fulfilling life. And I think in that exact moment, I became a feminist. And I'd say in the last 6 months, it stepped me up to being a bit more of a militant feminist, and I will very, very proudly say that.
Yay!
And I'm going to do that until we no longer need to have that function.
Right. Whenever that, I feel like I will not see that day before I die, but hey, maybe, stranger things have happened, right?
Hey, and if we both do our best, it'll be a little bit closer to it.
We'll do our due diligence, indeed. Yes. Now I'm like, who goes first?
Yes, that's the fun part. Like, it's sort of like two hosts in the same thing, and now we've got my cat distracting both of us.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
you can show me. Yeah, I would love to see the cat.
Oh yeah, he just went.
Everyone,
he's been in a mood today, so don't mind.
Everyone loves cat videos.
Oh yeah.
It's a black kitty.
Yeah, he's a big one too. He's an old kitty.
Oh, I want a cat. We had to give ours up. Unfortunately, she was a outdoor kitty. Did you adopt your cat, or did you?
Both of ours are feral. This one was a barn cat that had been abandoned by his mom. And someone impulsively grabbed him and then realized they had too many cats. And then the other one was full on the cat distribution system, where she showed up as a kitten on our doorstep and was really cute, and we took her in.
It's hard to resist.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, ours was kind of semi-feral. She's really, really friendly, and she not to talk about our cats all the time, but she was just really pretty. She was featured in some of my videos even, and I went on vacation, and we were bonded. Like, I was her number one human, and then Brian, my husband, was second, I guess. But I went on vacation, and she was really pissy the whole time I was gone. It was only 4 days. I came back, and like the day after, she was happy to see me. Day after, she all out mauled me. Like, a weird sound went off on my phone, and she was on my desk and just leaped for me and was and I was scratched all up and down. I mean, she bit me, she scratched. Most bizarre thing I've ever seen. And I love cats. But anyway, so we had to.
Even the most domesticated ones are not entirely domesticated. I was actually just looking because I'm like, mine claws me regularly. Like,
oh, yes.
And she's getting better at it. But it's the kitten. She's like, you think the old big one is the tough one, but no, he's a marshmallow. The kitten, the kitten, the tiny little kitten is the most gangster cat I have ever met.
Ferocious.
And she's, well, it's not like she's always ferocious, but like she's just got some like, I'm gonna stab you in her, like I'll cut you. And she's like the cuddliest thing ever, but like you get on her bad side and then it's like, oh yeah, she was a feral cat.
Yeah. Well, good for you for your patience, because we couldn't take it anymore. I mean, we were literally like terrorized in our home. And so there was a moment where we were like, I was trapped in our office here, and my husband he was here in the office. I was trapped in the bathroom, and she was like gonna come for me if I came out, or him. She went after him too, but he had to crawl out the window to go around. I mean, we're like, we can't live like this. But she got adopted out though, so it was good. All good. Everyone's happy now.
Well, the hard one is these two don't like each other, and they can finally get to the point where they're in the same room, which is a huge improvement. Yes. But they can't be more than a couple feet close to each other. But like both cats, I've had to do the thing where I've had to let them really like unleash hell and not react to it, and after that, they just went, "Oh, this doesn't work," and then they just don't really give me any problems.
That's funny.
Like I had that one that you just saw has the first time I gave him a bath, he sunk his teeth down to the gum line into my arm, and I just looked at him and I kept scrubbing him up, and he just eventually took his teeth out of my arm, and after that he's never really, I never really had to like, get harsh with him. I just had to let him know that he can't really do anything to me.
Could not be that calm, but good for you. Yeah. Anyway,
parenthood has prepared me for cat ownership. I'll put it that way.
I was gonna say, I do not have children. I do not have feral kids running around, so I did not have that. But I like kids. I just never wanted them myself. But
you mentioned something earlier where you were talking about how I just randomly approached you, and I think that's something the people who wind up with a lot of connections online tend to do what I do, which is I'm just going to come in and talk to literally anybody. I don't care if someone's going to respond or not. And if they don't after a couple of times, I go, okay, they're not the kind of people who respond. But like, I love having conversations with people. So if I see a point where I am interested in knowing more, or I maybe have something to contribute, I'm going to have a conversation with that person. And it has led to a lot of connections that I wouldn't otherwise have, both in this space, which I'm relatively new to, at least online, lots of in real life activism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But in other endeavors, whether it be work or hobbies, where I just walk up and it's like, well, who's this guy? I don't know. He's talking to me, so I'm going to talk to him. Okay, cool. And that's how I get my foot in the door. So I literally will talk to anybody who puts up something interesting that I feel, connected to or resonates with me. And some of the stuff you were putting out really resonated with me.
Oh, cool. I was going to ask you what resonated with you, if you remember, like do you remember the topic or?
I don't even remember the exact topic, but I think it was more the fact that you were very unapologetically confident and really on a mission to accomplish what you were wanting to accomplish. Like you weren't treating it like it was wrong or anything like that. It wasn't whiny. It wasn't hand-wringy. It was the kind of strength that I think we need to see more in activism, where people tend to, I think, shut out people who are engaged in activism because it is typically it's lectury, it's whiny. They see it as weak. They see it as whatever. And what they are not met with is boldness and confidence and strength. And that's the kind of thing that really, I think, we need to stop apologizing for trying to do the right thing. I think we need to just do the right thing and be confident about it. You could sell anything if you're confident enough. You don't even have to be right, as proven by pretty much everyone in the alt-right. You don't have to know what the hell you're talking about. You just have to be confident enough to sell it. But what happens if you're actually right and what you're selling is empathy and kindness and understanding and actual real freedom, not government suppression. And that's why I feel like we need to be more bold. And I see you do that. And I'm like, all right, you've got my attention.
Awesome. Well, thank you for that. It's been a journey, I guess, like anything. I did not start out as like how do you say, kind of with that purpose and what I wanted to do. This all started, it was actually a very embarrassing. Like I look back like, ugh, what was I doing with my life? But during COVID, I became unemployed. I was a teacher at the time, teaching English as a second language. And I worked for a adult international school here in Denver. And they're like, oh, well, that's all in person, our students, everything. So we're going to just get rid of all the teachers. And so there, off I went. Luckily, I don't know if folks remember, but we had under Biden, we had very generous unemployment benefits under that. If anyone else was, and so it gave me the opportunity to have a lot of free time on my hands, I will say. But unlike the jerks on the right who say, oh, they won't do anything. They'll just sit on the couch, whatever. We give them money or, whatever. But I was like, okay, I have to do something, And so I showed you, I tried to start a YouTube channel and kind of get into that space. It just became too scattered, There was just so much going on. It's like, and I mentioned this in one of my posts recently where because there is so much going on, uh, my best friend was like, what do we do? Where do we start? And I said, just pick one thing and do the hell out of it. Just pick that one thing, And so like you have your podcast, do the hell out of that. Everyone is serving a purpose in these spaces, and it is very difficult to cover all of it, right?
Is that why you specialized and you have the screen name you do, if you want to share that with everybody listening?
Yeah. So I've been actually an abortion rights, or I'll just say blanket reproductive rights advocate for many, many years. And I'm going to be, like I'm bold in saying that I had an abortion when I was 28. And at that time, everything was covered, like insurance. It was not talked about in my, in my 20s, so it's not like I was advertising it, like we do now, like shout your abortion, I think is awesome. But during that time, I was like, it was kind of still stigmatized, or it was stigmatized. It was something I wasn't personally ashamed of, but it wasn't something you talked about, but at the same time, it was fully covered by insurance, United Healthcare as it was, as it happened to be. And so that kind of, I think that personal experience kind of started me, but also my mother was a big influence. She's been, not always, but she started to become more outspoken about reproductive rights as I got older. And what's really weird is I didn't even tell my parents that I had that, and which is weird because they're very open people, and it sounds like your mom is from what she was talking about. But anyway, so let me focus here. So I have been in that space for a long time. I've been a big advocate for Planned Parenthood. I've been there, going there my whole life, just in times where I didn't have insurance, through my companies. They have the, sliding scale, and they're accessible. They know what the hell they're doing. So I'd go there for just my physicals, just well women's exams and just basic healthcare, which is what they do. And then as the Republicans were chipping away, and which a lot of people weren't really paying attention, which I get, but it was so frustrating watching it happen in real time. And honestly, one of your questions was like, what do you want? Or it was something about, let's see, where is it? I have it somewhere. Something about if men were listening, what would you want them to, what is that question?
Oh, which one? Because I've got them on my phone.
It is, oh wait, I have it here. Women want to be heard is an incomplete sentence. How would you finish it? And women want to be heard. I think this is I want to be intersectional about it, but any of us in this space is like, we want to be believed. We want to be heard, but we want to be believed, and we want to be taken seriously, because I feel like, and I'll say especially women, we're last. We're like at the bottom of the totem pole when it comes to this. So you can talk about like LGBTQ, and I have no bitterness toward, like, I have been fighting for LGBTQ rights alongside women, reproductive rights at the same time, racial justice, that kind of stuff. I am there. I'm there for you. I'm there for your community. It was really hard to see it come back, and like, look where we are. We have completely lost our right to our, in red states, when, people have lost their entire right to their bodily autonomy. And I don't know. I think so there's a lot to it. Oh my God, I could talk for hours about this, but through that time, as I said, as our rights were being chipped away at, I got more into that space, and it really became I don't know, it's almost an obsession for me, because I just feel like I had that opportunity in my 20s, and I want, like, everyone should have that fundamental right to their body, and not just reproductive rights, but everything. Like, it's fundamental to your rights. I mean, it's like, when you are born, you are inherently given those rights. And that's why before birth, you cannot equally give a fetus, or a zygote or embryo, whatever. You cannot give it rights without stripping them from the woman. So it's not equal. There's no, love them both. The other side likes to say there is no love them both. You are loving a fetus over pregnant people. And so anyway, got into that space. My mom is very much was in that space, and I can talk about her later, but we're both kind of worked on it together, in it together. Back to COVID, I was kind of floundering. Like, I started this Bite-Sized Democracy channel, and I had a little bit of a platform going. I just wasn't able to focus. I did a few videos there, and I taught myself how to video edit and all that stuff, which is a really good experience. And then this is the embarrassing part, and I feel a little shamed about, but I kind of joined a group of women who are about, my age, or like middle-aged ladies. And I thought I was doing the right thing at the time, but we were disrupting, as I said, we were disrupting misinformation, disinformation with I call them forced birthers, the pro-life forced birther people. And so we were going on other accounts and just, really holding their feet to the fire, correcting the information, getting insulting. We were all anonymous. So we thought we were protected, oh, I'm anonymous. This is what we do. We troll people, And I had a really good little community with these, and it was kind of like friends, across the miles, when you feel so isolated during COVID. So I don't regret that at all. And I just regret how things ended up with those folks, because it eventually led to, I mentioned this, but and people can read the whole story if they want on my Medium blog, because I documented it. I had to document it. But it eventually led to picking the wrong person, and they doxed me. And these people are dangerous. I just want everyone to know that these people are wacko, and now they're emboldened, and they are going to start doing really crazy, vicious, dangerous things. So just be careful. But anyway, I was doxed. This person had some connections to these right-wing, like, college rags. For a little while, if you Googled my name, the first thing that would come up was Colleen is, what was it, like, doxed my past. They were calling me a teacher, even though I wasn't anymore, but that makes it more, it's what's the word, salacious or something, or evil or bad if I'm a teacher.
You're indoctrinating children with your
Yeah.
crazy beliefs on bodily autonomy.
It was actually a little worse. And here's where I'm like, that wasn't the end of it. As there was, the way one of the articles was written was really just sneaky. She did this little literary trick where she said something about me, like Colleen Luckett, blah, blah, blah. And also, like, let's see, her name is Lydia something. She's big time Students for Life person and spokesperson. And it said something like, she's been a target of Colleen's, and she's also had rape threats. And like, it connected me, and had her tire slashed. So this weird literary trick where people were commenting on it saying, did she give you rape, like, Colleen? And I'm like, no, I did. Anyway, really, they're clever and they're awful. And I just want, like, if that's my little warning, just be careful. Just be careful when you're online, and make sure you're protected, because, oh my God, it was so gross. And then I was like, oh my God, they called my my place of work, they're really trying to get me fired. I had people, tweeting at my company. It was a whole thing. But I learned my lesson. I learned my lesson about privacy online. I learned about, safety online. I learned the hard way. So everyone listening, learn from me.
Oh yeah, I'm already gonna download or look into, what did you call it, like Delete Me or
Delete
something
me.
like that.
Yes.
But just to like,
Yeah.
if you're making enemies, you're on the right path. And I've told somebody this in another one, where it's like video games. Like if you're having no obstacles, whatever, you're probably not going the right way. If you're finding your power-ups and your enemies and all this other stuff, you're definitely going the right way. If you are trying to affect change, you're going to run into people who don't want that change, and they want to maintain the system that's hurting people. So you are going to get them riled in a very, very severe way. And one of the things I keep hearing from multiple sources now is this concept of an extinction burst. And people get really fighty in that moment of extinction burst, but we just need to power through it. Like this sucks. This hurts. It's like seeing the fizzle of hydrogen peroxide. It's like, that's how you know it's working. When you start getting into that danger zone, that's when you know you have got to the place where you've needed to go and to keep pushing. And it's dangerous and it's scary, but that's letting you know you're going the right way. And furthermore, I will say it is never a bad thing to lose that sense of mischief, that inner child that lets you find joy in stirring what needs to be stirred. Yeah. I mean, you're going to get no judgment from me. I showed you the picture I ran of Mark Zuckerberg as an Instagram ad to
awesome.
See how far I could push it after getting shadow banned and getting out of it. I speed ran a shadow ban. And not only did I try to get myself re-banned, I did it in the most obnoxious possible way because I thought it was funny. And you know what?
Yes,
it worked. You got it. Sometimes you gotta mix in humor. It's the sugar that helps people like coat the medicine that they got to take. So if you're doing some of this stuff with humor and you're not super serious and boring and buzzkilly about it, I feel like that goes in with that confidence I talked about earlier. That is what's going to get people to listen to you and not instantly shut their ears. So if you're doing it, even if you're like an asshole for the purposes of good, if you're doing it in a funny way, if you're doing it in an amusing way, if you're doing it in a way that gets people like invigorated and like paying attention to you, like, oh, I want to watch this train wreck, or, oh, wow, somebody finally did this thing I've been thinking of saying, anything, or that just made me laugh, you are going to get so much more traction than just telling people how wrong they are.
Well, yeah, and looking back, like that kind of reminds me, like when I told my parents what was going on, because the dangerous side of that is that these people don't stop at you; they go after your family, and I'll come back to that. But when my mom was talking to me about how they were looking at the article that had been read about me, and my mom said, "Your dad started laughing when he saw the blow up doll," and I'm like, all right, that makes me feel a little better. My dad's laughing at me, and I love my dad. And so I was like, okay, well, maybe it's not so bad. Or he was laughing at some of the other stuff too. But anyway, yeah, it was inappropriate to be sure. But, it's just, you get to the point where you're like, this little, can I cuss on your show?
At this point in time, I'm just going to take, because the last guest said shitty like twice. I'm going to just put the explicit marker on this because I have a feeling we're going to go to some pretty dark places in some of these
I'll try not
episodes.
To. I'll say jerk. I was going to say asshole.
You can say jerk as long as you say fucking jerk.
Oh, okay, cool. All right. Well, if I have that, okay. Then
you just need to make sure you soften it that way.
Okay.
We're going to, this whole thing is going to be, this is not exactly going to be a kids podcast. Like this is going to be a place where people can talk.
Just want to make sure.
I've been around people who have survived, sexual assault, and there's things where I don't ask those questions, but if they feel that I need to know something, if I need to hear something to help understand it, I'm never going to tell them that they can't tell me that. It's
exactly.
Which actually is going to segue into something I wrote down on my notes here. You have found a way to not only discuss something that is a deeply, deeply personal decision and a deeply, deeply personal experience in a way that helps other people. And I think you talked a little bit about why you wanted to do that, but was there anything in particular that you said, because of my experience, then I have the expertise and I want to help people jump ahead? Or is this just something that really you felt strongly about and they said, this is where I'm going to specialize? Like how did you like exactly hone in on, go from this general podcast, YouTube channel that you wanted to start to, and you started to talk about it, then we tangented it off.
Sorry, yes.
How do you get to the specializing point?
Thank you. Yes. I was going to just end that last segment by saying we women, and this goes along with your podcast theme, is we get really tired of little teenage asshole boys telling grown-ass women what we're allowed to do with our bodies. And so that is why we were doing what we were doing. And like, dude, really? And by the way, I just want to put this out there too. Where are their parents? If they're so worried about, oh, you're sexually harassing me, then why are you online? Anyway.
Oh, I can tell you exactly where their parents are. They're at the bar, they're listening to Cheap Trick, and they're trying to convince each other that their high school year was the best year of their life and it was better than this other person's high school year. These people peaked in high school, didn't parent their kids right, totally never taught them how to have empathy or care or why other people matter. 100%. I know exactly where their parents are. Their parents are doing some sad thing because their life is peaked, or they are sitting at home scared to go outside and they're judging the outside world for being so big and scary. All of these things. And they are teaching their kids to be xenophobic buttholes.
Yeah. And I'll take you one, and a third one for you is, in our space, at least, religious indoctrination, because it is, it's so misogynistic and the fact that they think they have the right, it's just so audacious to me, but anyway, so to answer your question, go back to that. So it was so I was getting into this kind of danger zone. And the reason I pulled back mainly was I don't care so much about me. I do care about my safety, obviously, but they were going after my husband, my senior citizen parents. Social media does nothing to protect you. I realized that very quickly. And by the way, I had that blue check, and I did, one of them was posting, I did burlesque. That's another thing I can talk about, but I did burlesque in my mid 30s for a while. So there's this account I cannot get to without the password. Anyway, can't get rid of it. It's all out there. But they were posting pictures of my breasts. And these are women, I think. I don't know. They're anonymous too, of course. It's the irony. But there were these anonymous trolls, and they were just going after me. And I managed to call someone in, amazingly, at Instagram customer service, and they did remove some of that stuff. But the blue check was not worth it. I don't know if you've ever tried to use it, but I was just like, this is ridiculous.
That's how I speed ran the shadow ban.
That's right. You said that. Yes.
Not only did I used that to rocket myself out of a shadow ban, but then I used it. I tried to get banned and I couldn't get banned. So I also noticed my engagement going way up. So it's all
ridiculous. And I want to talk to you about that. We'll come back to that idea about collaborating, which I think is awesome.
Oh yeah. You gotta learn what's fertilizer for the algorithm, but that's a conversation we'll have a little bit later.
But it's so, my point being that just don't pay for the blue check mark. They do not really do much. They don't, it's insane to me that you have the blue check and you're shadow banned. You're paying to be shadow banned. It's ridiculous. Yep. So,
well, okay. So I had a thought that is now completely gone. So give me 2 seconds. This is gonna be two people who are gonna have like dueling space out moments. So you're talking about but you were talking about like religious indoctrination, and it's this whole thing where like I feel like I read a different book than they did, because like all of this stuff is like don't judge, love your neighbor, all this other stuff, and I'm pretty sure there wasn't a single verse in there about yelling at people because they live differently than you. In fact, it's lots of stuff exactly the opposite.
I know.
Now I remember exactly what it is. Women having any sort of sexual agency scares the shit out of so many people and frustrates people are either scared of it or they're frustrated. And I covered this with my last guest, Brown, where people see someone living the life that they wish they could, or living openly in a way that they wish they could, or living sexually liberated in a way that they wish they could. And because they can't do that, they want to bring that other person down
100%.
and tear them down. So they should feel bad about the fact that they just did that. But why? And there's so many, this whole concept of slut shaming that is so prevalent in men. Men will, in the same breath, they will never get to put in the effort to actually know a woman. They treat women like they're a life support for a vagina. And they slut shame them, and then they wonder why women don't want to have sex with them.
Why can't I get a date? Yeah.
You answered your own question. We talked a lot on my last episode about how this male loneliness epidemic is entirely a self-inflicted wound. It's just because men don't put in the work to learn how to interact with people who are not like them. And they are so judgmental and discouraging, and then wonder why people are discouraged. It's almost comical when you pull back and see the cycle, how these people are not aware of how they dug their own hole.
So I know I'm probably not going to make a friend of myself to women right now, but I'm just going to put out there, I wouldn't say it's wholly men's fault. We've participated in that in the way that we have. I feel like, and I'm totally generalizing here now, in my life, I'll just say in my life, I accepted things that I shouldn't have accepted, and I put up with things that I shouldn't have put up with because of my own shit. And so I think that, and it's not necessarily our fault either. I mean, the way we were, I guess, groomed or brought up, in my time and before is, you are supposed to be demure and not cause a stink. And if you're bold at work, you're a bitch, and all that stuff. And so just don't make waves, just work with men, work with them and ride their coattails. I mean, that's basically all we had way back in the day, was to kind of ride the coattails. And, so we have, I think that whole interaction has haunted both, women and men and everyone in between. I don't want to leave non-binary people out.
Oh yeah. And it's the conditioning, like, the whole idea of looking at how little girls are socialized, and it's like, you have these things where it's, the wedding, and this makes you feel like and you're just an accessory for a man. And then the old joke about, like, you go to college to get your MRS. It's like, are you kidding me?
Oh yeah,
like,
my mom
no
talked
wonder,
about,
wonder you're setting women up to fail, because they're going to be deep into their lives before they realize that they put up and enabled so much bad behavior in men.
We have, but it's changing. It is changing. Like, I'm gonna hopefully redeem myself with my ladies, but because I'm a girl's girl, I love women. I love men too, but I'm a feminist, so I'm fighting for us. But yeah, I am so impressed by the younger generations of women, especially when they start coming for the abortion rights, like hardcore. Like, again, I saw it like chipped away, and I was like starting to panic, and I'm like, okay, people, we really need to pay attention. But it just, these girls at the time were too young, and by the time they were old enough to be affected, they're like, oh, hell no, we're not putting up with the men anymore. We're not putting up with our rights being taken away. We're going to talk about it. We're going to, we're going to destigmatize. And honestly, I have, I don't call myself an expert, and I very much don't like to be the center. And so like I told you, I will take any chance I can to elevate others. And so I give the younger generation of women huge credit for stuff I know, like the things that I do know, because they have been so amazingly open about everything. And I've learned to be more open. I still, like, even though all of these young girls were talking about it openly, I was still scared to share that I had an abortion. It took me years. I mean, I just recently, like, I want to say maybe a year or two ago, was able to put it out on my platform. I was, I wrote it on my bio and my little Medium blog, and it was in there. But I just didn't have the courage, or it's just really, that stigma sticks with you, and it's still with us. I mean, I still see it. Like, one of the things I'm trying to get people to, another thing I want to talk about was language in our spaces, and how insidiously the powers that be have divided us. So if you think of like pro-life versus pro-choice, neither of those are descriptive of the people in these spaces. Neither of those. It's not pro-life. It's forced pregnancy and forced childbirth. You're forcing women into old traditional roles, right? So it's not pro-life. It's anti-women's lives. Pro-choice is not descriptive because I am pro-abortion. Abortion is healthcare. We've stigmatized it by saying it's a I'm not pro-abortion. I'm pro-choice. No, we're pro-abortion. I mean, I think we've done ourselves a disservice by falling into those. I call it a false dichotomy. That kind of black and white. But the forced birth side, the pro-life side, they have weaponized it and they have used it in such. I mean, I will say they've been really good at it, and we're always on the defense. It seems like they always control the messaging, and then we're always on the defense with our facts. And this is any advocacy, we're always like on the defense because they can lie, they can say anything they want. They have massive amounts of power and money, and it's hard to fight back on that.
Well, you gotta understand that you're speaking a different language than them. And
yeah, true.
What I find interesting is when you pull back, I think I'm more accurate. And this is me. Like, I'm not an expert. Like you were saying earlier, you're not an expert. I'm not an expert. I'm just a guy who has opinions and doesn't have the sense to not say them out loud.
Yeah, that sounds familiar. Yes.
I think the amount of people who are pulling up, like they've got a pickup truck, they've got pro-life, and they're coming to one of these demonstrations, and they've got their like lovely wads of meat dressed up as a fetus posters, and they're trying to be horrifying and everything. Yes. But on that same pickup truck, they'll have like a "Don't Tread on Me," right? Like they'll be all civil liberties and all this other stuff. And what boggles me is how people who can be so intensely proud of lack of government interference are so unbelievably pro-government interference when it comes to bodily autonomy. And there's few things in your life you can say you honestly own. You don't necessarily, you can lose the clothes on your back. You can lose everything. You could be in a barrel on the street, but damn it, you own your body. Exactly. And there's no government who can say, even if you're in prison, they own your freedom, they own your mobility, but they don't own your body.
Right.
But these people are so pro-government interference that somehow they believe the government owns your body. And it just boggles my mind how they can miss that connection.
Well, I can tell you, and it's exactly what you said, is they speak a different language. And that language is the language of it's all about the fetus. And they do, because a fetus is, quote, innocent, they can put all of that weird religious innocent, the innocent lamb in the womb, and like, oh, I hate that word. I'm like, it's called a uterus, people, but they use that language, the language of the Bible and all of that to really, it's just dehumanize women and make us the bad guy, or the doctors, the bad guys, by centering the fetus. And that's why I have been, and people are getting a lot better about it online, but I was so tired of people arguing with these people about when life begins, but it's the annoying questions where it's not really a question. When does life begin? They were like, and I'm like, I don't care, but my life is really important, and like I don't care when life begins. And so what you're talking about, I actually wanted to pivot to the personal liberties issue. And I talked about this in one of my videos, but there was it's Amarillo, Texas. I sent you the article. So yeah, when you have time to read that, but Amarillo, Texas, I'm sorry, I can't remember any of the little details and who it was, but someone managed to, get this very red, Amarillo is very, very red, to vote for abortion. So it was like against the abortion ban there, or some kind of abortion ban there, based on personal liberty. And they absolutely use it's the language again. Language is so important in these spaces. And I think that's something we don't really talk about enough too. But yeah, they were able to say, this is a personal liberty issue. And they were like, hell yeah, of course it is. But then they voted for Trump, the same district. So they're voting. And so people were like, wait a minute, how are they voting against the abortion ban, but they also voted for Trump and it's Ritz? I think that is a winning strategy, and I hope that we can somehow elevate it about it being
Yeah.
absolutely, yes, we
And
need to elevate
you
that.
know, it comes down to just really the basics of, do you want the government in your doctor's office? Do you want the government in your bedroom? And I'm pretty sure most government employees, no offense if any are listening, are terrible lovers. I don't want them in my bedroom. I'm sure they're terrible doctors. I don't want them in my doctor's office. I don't want them anywhere near any part of me that I don't show in public. And
Right.
they're just like, well, let's let them in. Let's let them make a decision. Hey, these guys can't make a basic decision on a law. Then you're going to ask them to try and diagnose something medically? No.
Oh, yeah. And all of these laws are based on misinformation and religious bullshit. It is. Yeah.
And it's bad enough that, you go in as a woman and you say, I don't want to have kids. I've made my mind up. I don't want to have kids. Or I am unable to safely have kids. And they said, well, a man might want to use your body as an incubator in 10 years. We're not going to do that procedure.
Yeah.
And it's like, are you kidding me? Aren't we the land of the free? I mean, have you read the Constitution? All the fancy songs that you guys love to sing while you're waving your flags
I know.
about how free this land is, but hey, someone might want to put a baby in you later and you need to be ready to serve that purpose. What part of that says freedom? Like, I don't understand it. There's such a disconnect.
Yeah, I had that exact experience actually. I was I think 31, I want to say, and I never wanted children, never ever. Um and again, not that I dislike, I like kids. I love my students that I taught in Japan. I love them to death. But just didn't want them myself. And my doctor was female, and I like to think it was it could have been a cultural thing. She was Indian woman. And so I don't know if that was part of it, but I got that same thing was, well, you're 31, and I think I was engaged at that point. And she's like, maybe you should wait. But there is another side to it that, we might gloss over because of emotions. And I had a doctor friend, and she said, doctors are really scared of being sued. And so with that, yeah. And so because we're so sue happy in this country, that's a whole other, whole other issue is, like our greed or whatever it is that makes us so sue happy. I'm not in that space, so I'll let a lawyer come talk about that. But yeah, just they're probably kind of worried about they're worried about, will I be sued if we do this? And then also it was in that language of, maybe you'll change your mind. And I'm sure that's not new. Like every woman has probably gone through that. Almost every woman who has not wanted children has heard that before. Like, you'll change your mind. And we're just, like you said, we're not whole people. We are I can't say the word, infantilized. We're made into children who are not able to govern we're not able to have decisions, that we're not capable of making decisions. We're hysterical, we're emotional, we're basically children who are not allowed to make these big decisions, because how could you possibly know? You're supposed to have children. So yeah, it's very, I don't know, it's an odd thing. And then of course men, I have been, okay, so I have an ex-husband, I have a current husband, both of them vasectomies. Go in, snip, you're done.
Me too.
Nothing. Yeah, okay. And so no one questioned you, right? Where they were like, well, maybe you'll want more kids, or maybe well, maybe they do. I don't know. But neither of my husbands, had that experience. Just no questions asked. I mean,
no, it was in and out. I mean, they could have damn near done it in a drive-through. Like this.
Yeah, exactly.
It was so fast and so easy. Like it.
Yeah.
And there was no like, are you sure? Are you sure? You sure? It's like,
yeah. There wasn't like 2 consultations and like given all this literature, and you didn't have like a few consultations. Yeah.
No, they literally asked me like, hey, you sure about this? Like in a way like, why are you doing this? That was the closest thing to saying like, hey, you might not want to do this. They said, hey, why are you doing this? And I said, Roe just got knocked down. I'm done. I'm
Yay.
45. I got 2 kids. I don't need more. I'm good.
Yeah. Awesome. Good for you. Yes. Yeah. And my story is, and again, I never wanted kids, but, and I can't quite remember, I can't remember my first husband. He's a good guy. No animosity there. I think it's just, we just didn't want kids. But so when I lived in Japan, I came back, and so God, when was that? That was like almost 7.5 years ago. And we had started dating, and I was like, I'll just get an IUD, and I tried it, and this is where like these men and these politicians, they have no idea they don't even know where the clitoris is, much less, excuse me, what happens to our bodies with different things. We're not a monolith. Like, I went and got an IUD and it was the most painful thing I've ever felt in my life almost. And I was like, this doesn't work. I got to get it out. And so I was like literally almost doubled over for 3 days until I had my appointment. And so immediately my husband, he's a champ. He's like, I'm going to go get a vasectomy. That's ridiculous. You shouldn't be, there are good men in the world, ladies. I just want to say Shane's a good man. My husband's a wonderful man. There's still some good guys left. Now, granted, we're like Gen X, so I don't know. I feel like maybe it's getting worse, but at least our generation, there's still some good ones. But
yeah,
I
I'm seeing some generational shifts where I'm officially at my like get off my lawn point. But like
Oh,
one
yeah.
of the things I can say that I am impressed is that this new generation are far more likely to stop a conversation and say, "No, I demand you explain to me why you think that's funny," or explain your
Yes,
position. And really
yeah.
call people to task on things that normally would have just been bold statements that would have shut down a
Yep.
conversation. And I'm really proud of them for that.
Me too. I actually, and yeah, the other side hates that, but yeah, I welcome that. I'm here to learn. I'm a curious, we're curious. It sounds like you are too, but obviously, we're curious people, and the more we learn, the more empathetic we can be, and I'm not, I say this a lot. It's not original, but I am not free unless you're free, so I want to know, I want to know what you need from me to be free. And yeah, I just, like, I did this that direct action yesterday and I felt so uncomfortable. People are like, "Oh, you did such a great job. Thank you." And I'm like, "It's not about me. Like your speech, oh, it's so good. It's not about me. It's about it's like Bernie, not me, us." Bernie Sanders. And I just get like, I'm okay with the compliments, but it's also like in this space, that was a whole other thing we talked about today, or I get really frustrated about like, I'm a celebrity now. I'm a celebrity. I'm an influencer. I'm a celebrity. No, you're not. Get over yourself. If you're an activist, if you're in this space talking about politics, get over yourself. Like, we're losing the battle. We need to join hands and forces. Like, enough of this. So anyway,
There's so many different unique voices in this space, and that's why I really like the group, the circle that I've sort of fallen into, is because everyone seems to have a unique voice, and there's very few people that just repeat. And it's that I feel is what we need. Is we need to have as many people saying different things at that table as possible, and really. I want to ask you about something before we move on, but then I want to jump back into this conversation about collaboration and the algorithm and all this other stuff and fighting the nasty robots.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And I don't think I ever actually answered how I got to abortion.
I think you did. People can assemble the parts enough to get a general idea, but if you want to tie it all together, you can.
Oh, you can piece it back. Yeah. No, the only thing I think I wanted to, this is just a funny story that, people might want to hear, but, so my name is the Abortion Fluencer, right? Take out the IN, so Abortion Fluencer. So there's a reason that came to be. I did actually not come up with that name. I was trolling. I was doing my troll thing. I was arguing with some idiot, some anti-choice little boy, and he got really frustrated by the end because he just wasn't getting anywhere with me. And I don't rise to their insults and stuff. And it really annoys them. And so he just got frustrated. He said, "You're just an abortion fluencer." I'm like, that is a fantastic name. I'm going to change and I changed my login. And I'm like, you know what? I am not like, I don't feel good about what I'm doing. How can I be better for people? How can I be better service? How can I be a better activist? Whatever it was I was thinking at the time. I'm like, I wonder what I could do with this. Could I actually, do videos? Could I, just, turn into something that's a little bit more productive, I should say.
Well, I think it's also a fun
that's
name.
How it came to be. It kind of is. It's fun to say, the Abortion Fluencer. Yeah, it is. It's fun to say.
And it's unique. It's not just, whatever, and there's like a bunch of numbers after. It's unique. You found a unique name in a very very large haystack to find a needle in, and
Right.
that's sometimes that's really what can get your foot in the door.
So shout out to that troll, whoever he was. He got me. He launched me.
Well, and,
Anyway,
the
we
thing
can go
is,
back to it. Yeah, go ahead.
it's funny because I keep a folder. I keep meaning to do something with it, but there's like the whole idea of like this isn't the flex or brag that you thought it was, and it's like
Right.
so many of these guys they don't. There's no self awareness, and
Yeah.
they just drop gold, and you're looking at that going,
Yeah.
I couldn't have done that any better
Right.
myself.
It happens a lot. It happens a lot. Yeah.
So I want to ask you,
Yes.
what did you do over the last couple of days?
Oh, yeah. So that let's talk about pushing yourself out of your comfort zone. So yeah, I'm as frustrated as anyone out there right now, and just like feeling like, what do I do? And kind of there's so much. And so it just came across my screen. I don't know how, but I just knocked out my ear thing. Indivisible, this kind of platform, I guess, for activism. I don't know too much. I was going fast using their toolkit, but they are former staffers, I believe, in Washington staffers, and they started this up for like calls to action to actually get out and do things. And so they had a call to action specifically this week, and I need to check on it. I actually don't know. I don't know what happened, but specifically for this Wacko Russell Vogt is how you say the name. It's Vought. He was up for nomination for the OMB, Office of Management and Budget, and he worked in Trump's previous run. It's so weird to say that. Trump's previous administration, he was the same role, and he went through and slashed, all the social programs. That's what he does. But he was stopped. A lot of people were able to stop them last time, and now there's really nothing like that. And so he is one of the main architects of Project 2025. I believe he's the one who said, I think he was caught first on tape, but and ProPublica was kind of following them at the time. But he was the one caught saying that I think that they want to, quote, traumatize federal employees, like literally said it out loud. And that's what they're doing right now. They're doing what they said they're going to do. But anyway, he was up for nomination this week. And so Indivisible was like, we need people to go to their senators and go to their offices. Obviously, the senators are in Washington. Go to their staff, put this in writing, put down your demands, and here's a list of demands. They give us some stuff. Here are all the things that our senators need to be doing to stop, like just disrupt, slow down. Don't just be like, okay, yes, and all the talk and the interviews, the hearings and stuff, it's bullshit. Like they say what they want people to hear, and then they go in and they do their thing anyway. We've seen it. Kavanaugh, look at Kavanaugh, how much all of those three judges, how much they lied about Roe v. Wade, and oh no, it's established law. It's we're constitutionalists, and then so it's bullshit, and we know it. So anyway, so I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it, and I was like, I'm just gonna do it. I'm not gonna think twice because I'll chicken out. And I use their tools. It's a great, again, indivisible.org. They have all of the toolkit basically right there. They had I think an advocacy toolkit, I think they called it. So they had all the talking points, everything. You go in and make your event, and it just does everything automatically. So great tool. So I took a group. It was yesterday. They had the big, the national, like they're calling it 50-51, which is like 50 states and 50 rallies in 50 states. We're all one, something like that. And we had a huge turnout in Denver. But in the morning, I took a group and there were like about 57 signups within a couple days. Only I think about maybe 30 people showed up, which was awesome. And I could go through the whole thing, but you could probably just I'm going to try to summarize it.
I feel like if you can just shortcut it and say, go to your stories, go to your reels and stuff. You did a bunch of lives, and it was really cool to watch.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, there's a live there where I'm at the top of the Capitol steps and that was the other part of it was like, I've never done something like, I did speak at my graduation. I was not valedictorian, but we had a speech contest at my high school, and I won one of the winners of the speech. So I gave a speech to like the football stadium one time, but that was years ago. And I'm like, oh my God. And I'm like, I got to tell people what happened though. This is the whole point, is that we're together and we're giving each other information, and they need to know what happened at the senator's office. We all have our parts. Like they've been marching, they've been giving their amazing speeches and, being together. I've got it, and so I was like, I just felt like I was calling it I was telling my friends let's see, the holy rolling spirit of patron Saint Polly of protests came over me. And yeah, but anyway, and again, not me, just trying to get the message out and serve people the best way I can. It went really well, and it was weird. I wasn't nervous when I got up there. I stood in line for about 40 minutes. They had an open mic thing, so I don't know what other cities did, but that was amazing because anyone, could. There's some oddballs too, but anyone could, speak their truth, and that's what it's all about. But yeah, it was amazing. Yeah, and people can go look at my life. I'm still like, I'm recovering from the day and then trying to do my day job and not doing great, kind of failing at everything. And so I'm trying to get more with what happened up. I've got photos and stuff to put up. So I will do that as soon as I can. So you can check out what happened there. But it happened like lots of people were going to the senator's offices all this week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we were like tag teaming between the two senators in Denver. They're like 30-minute walk apart. And so people were just like crossing ways, oh, did you go to Bennett's? Yeah, we're just kind of giving each other information. This is our experience at Hickenloopers. And yeah, and so it was just really cool. I've been a part of like, again, volunteer, advocacy. I've helped with fundraisers for abortion funds, things like that. And I've been to marches and all kinds of things. I haven't felt that energy since maybe the 2017 Women's March, which was huge protests at the time against the first Trump administration. But yeah, a lot of energy, and it's still going. Like we have another rally planned for Saturday in Denver, or not we, but people here.
Well, I mean, it's important to let these
keep the
people,
pressure on.
Yeah, because if they think it's going to blow over and they can just wait it out, they're not going to do anything. So like, this phone call thing, and I feel bad saying this, I have not made one of those phone calls yet because of a bunch of stuff that happened in my personal life, kind of taking up all my time. But over the next couple of days, I plan on making some phone calls, and I plan on keeping it up until this is people understand in government that this isn't going to blow over. And thankfully we've got. I'm in one of the most wonderful blue islands there is. I'm not really a
you and me both.
Yeah, I'm not really a Democrat or Republican, but because I'm a human being with a soul and empathy, I've really sided lately with the Democrats. Yeah. And we have Walz here, and we have Klobuchar, and we have Omar, and we have all of these wonderful people.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, that's right. I love Elon.
Elon?
I'm sorry, Ilhan Omar?
Ilhan, yes.
I'm sorry.
I thought you said Elon. I'm like, well,
no,
okay, this is
God,
gonna. No. I'm listening.
I said it weird. No, Ilhan.
Ilhan, yes. No, Ilhan, and the thing is my hearing's kind of shot, so I probably heard it wrong.
No. I said it weird.
No, I'm like, all right, let's see where you're going with this.
Oh God, no. God, no.
But
no.
Yeah, we I've got people who are fighting already for this, but I want to keep them invigorated. I want to keep them going. I want to let them know, hey, you need to do this.
Yeah. And also like pace ourselves and like, hey, I can't do it. That's the other thing that used to just drive me nuts, not so much anymore, but is like my friend group be like, oh, thank you, Colleen. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for speaking for it. I'm like, you could do this anytime. Like you could pick up the reins and do it yourself. And it's just like, I get it. Like it's a lot, especially when you have a day job like we do. And like, but I've had like these philosophical moments with myself over the last, couple of months. Like, am I doing this for the right reasons? Like, I just want to always check myself. Like, am I centering others? I don't want to make it about me. Am I doing this for the right? Am I like losing myself in this? In that, like, am I not facing things that I need to face? I'm just kind of like getting caught up in this, and I don't know how to explain it, but like, just want to make sure I'm doing it for the right reasons, I guess, and serving people.
And I think too, it's important to pace yourself in a way that allows you to keep going, and it's going to look different for everybody. Like, resistance is such a diverse bouquet. Like, some people, it's just not letting this beat them down. Some people, it's just getting up every day and not feeling defeated. Some people, it's going to be full-blown activism. Some people, it's going to be as simple as, hey, I have a place of privilege. I am going to use that I'm going to cash in that privilege. on
Yeah.
letting the people who are like me know that what's happening is not okay. And I am literally,
Exactly.
they're trying to build a world for me right now. All the wrong people are trying to build a world for me, a white male. And
Yeah.
I'm like, all right, well, you're going to build that world for me, and I'm going to serve you up on that platter a pile of being a pain in the ass and telling you why what you did is wrong. I don't care if it
Yeah.
benefits me. It's wrong. I don't want it. It's like if somebody like robbed I was about to say a bank, but banks aren't exactly the shining standard of clean money. But like, let's
Yeah.
say somebody robbed a donation, and they're like,
Yeah. Yeah.
"Here, I'm going to give you $10,000 I robbed out of this charity." I
Yeah.
wouldn't take it. No, it's wrong to take that money. Pardon me. I'm
Yes.
getting over the flu,
Oh,
so I'm losing
sorry.
my
Yeah.
voice. So I'm normally not this squeaky. Anyways, so
No, you're fine.
they want to hand you this $10,000, and you say, well, this benefits you. Why? But it's wrong to take that, and it's wrong
Yeah.
to take the advantages of the privileges of the world that's being built for people like me right now, because it takes so
Yeah.
much away from other people. I can't in good conscience take that, but I'm going to use that safety of that place of privilege to do things that people who are in the bullseye right now can't
Yes.
do. So I'm going to be loud.
Yeah, that's important.
I'm going to be
That's
obnoxious.
That's
And
awesome. Yeah.
Even if, and not to make this all about me, I'm actually going someplace
No,
with this.
no, that's
If people who look like me are the first people to speak up when someone runs their mouth and says something really unkind to people in a way that punches down, if it's on people like
Yes.
me who are under that safety bubble of privilege to
Yeah,
shut
yeah.
it down right now, like immediately. And that
Yeah.
right there can be just as effective as going to a protest. It can be just as effective.
Absolutely.
And I'm not going to try and minimize the things, but like,
Yeah.
there was as much work done marching in the streets in the civil rights movement as people in small communities saying,
Mm-hmm.
no, this isn't right anymore. It never was right. And we need to
Yes.
fix that. And there's no comparing directly saying, well, this outranks this and this has more merit than this. because
Absolutely.
it is such
Yeah.
a diverse range of things that needs to happen for resistance and change and progress to be made.
I 100% agree on all of that. Yeah, like I said, everyone has their role, and it just kind of reminded me of this. Kind of had a tense conversation with one of the activists in my group, and she was very headstrong, and she was talking about environmental issues. And again, great. I was like reproductive rights. She's environmental. We had a non-binary person talking about their truth and their experience, and made my husband tear up. It was just really, it's horrible the way they're being, targeted right now and how they feel.
Yes.
Yeah, but what was I going to say with that? So we're walking to, the next senator's office, and I don't know, she just got a little know-it-all-y kind of, and it's fine, but she's very in the Democrat DNC lane, I should say. And I'm like you. I'm at this point, I'm an independent. I don't feel like I don't belong to either party. I don't like the label, and I don't like what the Democrats are doing anyway. But just a little well, if you do any of the calling that I do for the DNC, you would know some of the people across the, just kind of lecturing. And I got past it, and I'm like, okay, well, here's what I'm going to say. I think it's great that you're doing what you're doing. And then there are people who are, more in my lane, and we're doing what we're doing, and we need everyone. And there does have to be a point where we have to find some kind of cohesiveness at the same time, because we are, we're very divided. I mean, the country's divided right and left, but then in our because we're all thinkers on the left, right? We all have our own thing. And sometimes, and I would say a lot of times we overthink, because we are brainy, we're brainy, and we're the intellectuals, and we overthink some things where I'm like, and I could get into a whole conversation on that, but just like, how can we come together? Like, we can do our own things, but as long as we're advancing together, everything, everyone together, then that's great. I don't want us to get all divided on like, like, I don't know. I can't think of an example, but like, again, like I am not free until you're free. If all of us thought that way, that'd be great. Like we're all working toward the same goal.
I think I would be more of a Democrat, honestly, if being a Democrat meant being like Elizabeth Warren, if it meant like being like AOC, like Jasmine Crockett, like
Yeah.
Klobuchar, like Walls. If that kind of let's get stuff done energy was there, I would
Yeah.
probably lean pretty strongly Democrat. But my biggest problem with them is there's a lot of talk and very little action. And I want to see more people come
Yeah.
through. I feel like the new type of Democrat, the AOC, the Jasmine Crockett's of the
Yes.
world. I really want to see that happen. And then
I
I
do
could
too.
very confidently say I would be a Democrat. But I need to see action.
Yeah. And that's yeah, and that's exactly what I told this lady yesterday was I said, you know what happened with well, when we went to Hickenlooper's office, they shut us down. They showed this ridiculous force of, with their security guards. And I said to this woman, this is my experience with the Democrats, what we just went through, and that's why I don't trust them. And I know he doesn't represent all of them, they're not a monolith like everyone else. But this is what we've been getting, all these white men and their cronyism. I mean, it really is like, and I did want to just explain really fast. This ties in with that whole cronyism thing. So I really held, we were able to talk to Senator Bennett's, it's like Metro Denver uh, director, something like that. Very nice young man, great. He was there to listen, but it was still kind of the same old, the old Democrat way, what you were talking about. And so they were explaining the Chris Wright yes vote. So Chris Wright was the one he's now our Secretary of Energy. He was CEO of the second largest fracking company in North America, and it's located here in Colorado. But well, we vetted him, and we have these relationships here already because he's from Colorado, and so we can work with them. We can make sure our needs are known, and blah blah blah. I'm like, one of the guys in my group rightly said, wait, so just want to confirm, are you saying you are going to be able to stop Trump and his agenda? Yeah, because we have it, and we're like, it's that, and like, anyway, I know that's another topic, but yeah, we're tired of the old way. And that's where like going back to the youth, the younger generations, I am so thrilled. And I don't want them to have to do all of it. I'm here. That's why yesterday I was like, I'm a Gen Xer, I'm getting older. I'm like your parents, but I'm here. Like we are still here fighting. And I don't want you to don't push us away because we're still there, a lot of us. But yeah, anyway.
Well, I think it's funny seeing all of the love for Gen X and the whole like we've been pushed, like I feel like Gen X is the new Chuck Norris joke where it's like we've been pushed to legendary status, and the thing is a lot of it's true, but like it's because we had to be self-starters. We had to not accept what was just out there. We kind of were allowed to figure it out ourselves, so we're really self-motivated and stuff like that. And we also tend to just run our mouths because nobody ever told us not to. We never got that training.
Yeah.
We didn't get that memo when we were kids.
Yeah.
And it leads to a certain kind of boldness and not being able to be intimidated so easy. And some of us got old, where they forgot how to do that, and they're just comfortable and they want to stay comfortable. They don't want to rock the boat.
Like the boomers.
Yeah. A lot of us are transforming into like boomer light, but there's so many of us that are just like, hold up. Does anyone else see what's happening here? And we're going to be loud about it. And we don't really care. Maybe that's a bad way to say it. We do care about the consequences, but we're not going to let them stop us or dissuade us from doing the right thing.
Well, and on the other dark end of that spectrum is, I mean, a lot of those guys who stormed the Capitol were Gen X, right? I mean, they were like, so on the other side of the coin, using that same energy, unfortunately, a lot of those militia groups are about, they're like,
I mean, to be fair, lead paint really wasn't, and asbestos wasn't really outlawed until
True that.
the millennials came along. So there's a lot. I got to imagine that like the lead levels in the brains of some of the people in January 6th was rather high.
Yeah, there's a good point.
Go do a paint sample on their garage, and you're going to find a lot of lead, and there's going to be some asbestos. They got the asbestos gloves for like taking the pie out of the oven. They got them from their grandma.
Totally.
I feel like there's a high overlap there.
That's what's wrong with me. Yeah. We had a late start in high school because they were getting rid of the asbestos at our school on the ceiling. Yay.
Right. And
No.
those guys that store the Capitol breathed in a little too deep that day.
Too much. Yeah, they were the ones taking it out of the ceiling. Yeah, I got it. I got
Right, right. They
it.
were making snowballs and throwing it at each other.
Yes. Hilarious. Ugh. Um, yeah, so what were we saying? Oh yeah, a new generation of Democrats. Yes. And I think like the silver lining always with these times, I feel like, and it's, and we are in a privileged group, being white people. Um, but the silver lining is that it finally again, we're reactionary people. We're reactionary beasts, and it wakes people up. And I know a lot of people are mad at the pro-Palestine, people who are like, I'm not voting or whatever they did, or, but I also see that side of, well, if, incrementalism is not working for me. We are literally dying in the streets. Cops are taking us out, and Zionists are taking out the, Gazans. And like, what are you doing? Like what you said, like, what are you doing? I know we have Republican obstruction, but, and you got to follow the rules. Well, we're just never going to get anywhere with
Also,
this.
they're not. So
Yeah. So blow it up. Like, I mean, not literally. I didn't mean that. if anyone's listening, I don't mean it.
yes,
I mean,
explode the conversation, not the.
yeah, but just like it lit a fire. Look at these protests. I mean, and I've done a lot of protests, and it doesn't do a lot, to be honest. But in force and repetitively, like if you keep up, like you said, keep at it and keep at it. I have seen it. We have seen it change. The federal, just what was that last week? It's going so fast. The federal freeze or whatever, like he stopped. It was the funding freeze. That was it. He reversed that because of the outcry and the outrage, so it does work if you're just sitting around letting them do it.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, I feel like they're a toddler poking at things to see what they're going to get yelled at for.
And that's what they did the first time, right? And they were more checks and balances then, but yeah, that's what they did the last time. And also just like it's just to terrorize people and scare people and have us completely distracted, like you said, while they, pick the money out of our back pockets. And
yeah,
boy,
it's
that's a whole
bully
other
tactics.
issue. Yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Just terrorize. They're doing exactly what they said they were going to do. But back, oh, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. I was going to actually
just
segue into something, so finish what you were going to say.
Oh, yeah, I was too. But yeah, back to reproductive rights, here we are. And I was going to say something about men in those spaces, but oh, yeah, this is kind of random. It's a tangent, but
tangents are great. We love tangents.
So one thing I would say for men, that was I want to listen, and this is my experience, but we'll see very, very well-meaning men online arguing for abortion rights, reproductive rights, and that's awesome. But I feel like this is how like a Black woman probably feels about me, like voicing, like we're standing up for people, but also when do you pull back and be like, because I'll come on the thread and like these men are yelling at each other, and they're talking over me. And I'm like, hey, I'm the woman with the reproductive organs being attacked, So there's like this fine line of like, when do you pull in, like, well, it's great that you're advocating for me, but also could you like pull us into the conversation? And so, but I want to do that also for people who are not like me, so like Asian people or Black people or, whatever, LGBTQ people. And like, I don't want to speak for people too. So I don't know if I'm being articulate about that, but.
Oh, very. Actually, it makes me want to ask a question.
Okay. Yeah, sure.
And this is going to be started with how this podcast came about, was that I got very, let's just say, agitated, and I was ready to go look for people that were bold enough to say the whole "your body, my choice" thing, and give them a recommendation for a good dentist. We'll put it that way. But then I asked I had a moment where I stopped and I said, I'm going to ask women in this case, because it was a very specific thing I was upset about. I'm going to ask women what I can do to help.
Yeah.
And resoundingly, I heard, not that. Um,
Yeah.
and I
Yes.
think that's a question I check in on a lot, where I'll ask, if I do get involved in something, I will ask, how can I help? I'm here. What do you need me to do? And I think from my perspective, that's help, but I want to hear what your perspective is on that. What do you feel, is there any universal thing a man can do to help when he wants to help in that situation? Or is it better to just show up and say, hey, what can I do to help after making that
You
first
know,
intervention?
I think you're onto something, and it's weird. All these things are interconnected and connecting, and strangely, synchronicity is the word I'm looking for. But I was just talking to another she's a legal analyst, which, by the way, I'm going to recommend that you talk to her as well. She's awesome. You've probably seen her,
Absolutely.
um, we were talking about with like Black women specifically, like, and again, they're like talking about women are on the bottom of the totem pole. Black women are at the very bottom. Like if you want to go on, and it is awful. And so we want to, like you said, how can we be the most helpful? And my friend was saying, with my friends who, friends of color, so they're saying they don't really want us in their spaces, like sticking up for them. They want, and you mentioned this earlier, they want us talking to our own and trying to convince, like the religious weirdos, they're lost. I'm not talking about them, but like there are some Republican women who genuinely thought that states' rights meant something. Which, by the way, that's still regulating someone else's, personal medical appointments, but they really thought that Trump was not going to overturn do a national ban. They're like, no, he's not going to. He said he's not going to sign a national ban. Right? I know you're.
He said a lot of
He
things that
said a
he
lot,
has no
but they
intention of
are
doing.
right. But they don't. I don't know what it is. If it's just. I honestly, like, they're in their bubbles. They don't have enough information. They have wrong information. Whatever it is, they believe that. And so there are those women who I feel like right now are like lost. And so I think it's my duty. So I'm getting to your, but yeah, my duty is to try to find those women and reach them instead of being like a lot of people I've seen online or in activist spaces. F you, you voted for Trump, Republican, you're a piece of shit. I don't want to talk, they're just alienating people. And I'm like, you know what? If we're going to win against fascism, we have to find these people and change their minds. Like we can change those people's minds and we
Some
can
of
get
them.
them on our side. Yeah, but not the like the racist religious piece of shits, on the right. We can't do that. But yeah, there are plenty. There's a huge population, and there's a huge population of people who are just not even engaged politically. Like it shocks me because we're so engaged, but there are young women who didn't even know Roe v. Wade had been overturned like months after. And I'm like, oh my God, so there are people that are not being reached. And so I'm going to try to do that and reach those white women, because it's my own, who might be swayed. And they're out there. So for you to answer your question, I put a little call out at New Year's that I would love for men to, and I know this is hard, so trust me, I know, call out your brother, your cousin, your friend who is making misogynist jokes, making hateful comments about women. And yeah, hey, it's just a joke. It's not, though, because it perpetuates misogyny. And that's something I'm kind of trying to shift toward when I do my YouTube channel is I want to do I want to do a series, the history of misogyny. And I started with one with Mesopotamian laws. And like, if you had a miscarriage back then, or if had an herbal miscarriage or whatever, you would be put to death by the highest crime of treason against your king in Mesopotamia. So we're talking about ingrained, institutionalized misogyny for thousands of years.
Mm-hmm.
And so we think we're going to get past that, and like, is it like people are shocked that America is like that? No, we've been like this it's never gone away, just like racism didn't go away in the country. And so I would love for men to change the culture by like one-on-one. No, you don't get to say that anymore. And I know this is uncomfortable. Don't be a jerk. Try not to be a jerk about it. It's just like, dude, I don't think it's funny anymore. And we need to stop doing that. That would be amazing. Like just that one thing.
I have done that, and I've seen some
Yeah.
very shocked looks on
Great.
their face, and especially it comes with a privilege. I'm rather tall and rather large with a deep voice. I can make people reconsider their thought process fairly quickly, and it's another
Nice.
thing where I come from a place of privilege, and I fully recognize that privilege, and I didn't really used to use that privilege, but now I've got a good reason to use it, so I'm going to use it. I've sharply cut people off before, and they don't really tend to bark back at me, and it's
Kind of
nice.
wakes them up. Yeah.
Right, but they need to see someone
Yeah.
like me who I
Yeah.
am, I'm as Scandinavian as they come. I'm third generation in the United States. I'm a recent immigrant, my family is.
Yeah.
Um,
Gotcha.
but I look like the kind of person that they would look around the room and think they could say the N-word to, and then they
Oh,
meet
yeah.
me and it's like, you have got some interesting thoughts that really you need to explain yourself, or we're going to have a
That's
really big problem right now.
that's actually a really unique and interesting position for you to be in because you could get into those spaces like, camouflaged, right?
Hmm.
And then change it from the inside kind of thing. Yeah. Like, yeah, that is interesting. There are a couple, I think you know them, the Voice of Reason podcast
I
guys.
don't. And in fact, when I started moving into this space and decided to make a podcast, I put myself on a podcast ban, and I have not listened to any podcasts because I
Oh,
want to
well,
be able to, because I really want to
do
get
your
into
own.
this Pink Pill RX podcast. Um, but
Oh, yeah.
like
She's
I want to get like 10 episodes in and find my own voice in this space without unintentionally
cool.
influencing
Well,
by other
don't,
people.
yeah, yeah, you don't have to go listen, but they
I'm
like
literally
you,
going to do this afterwards. I'm going to
yeah.
subscribe to them on
Okay,
Spotify and then come back to it because I just don't want
cool.
to. I don't want to accidentally track in somebody else's voice. I want to. I want to
Well,
develop my own.
yeah, and this is not their podcasting, like their skills per se. It's how they look,
Hmm.
which is amazing. They look like you look at it, and they had like, and I don't know what they have now, but they had like, one of them was in the military. He had like his military paraphernalia on the back, the American flag, and they had these big long beards, and they're from the ones I think Pennsylvania and like New York or something, but they look like MAGAs, and
Yep.
so they are very much. It's that kind of like bait and switch. So I think you have something there. You could kind of
Yeah.
infiltrate those spaces. But then I was also going to say something about with reproductive rights in particular, women. We have done ourselves a disservice by saying so. And of course, this has been twisted around when people say you don't have a uterus, you don't have an opinion. Well, that has alienated men where to the point where they think that they're not allowed to say anything. And I don't want it to go that far. I want, so I know it's just difficult kind of navigating what is the balance, but I think it is like going to your own people and helping change that culture, but also like we want you to step up. Like I have been wanting men to step up about this but not about women's bodies, about your responsibility in it, because the whole narrative is that it's women. It's our fault. We're the Lilith, we're the seductress, we are the fall of man. We're what's wrong with the world. And so what I would want, so in addition to if you can, talk to men and change that culture, talk to men about their responsibility in this issue. And not from like, oh, for women, but for men, like use protection. Know that you are impregnating. Like I hate to get really graphic, but women can only get, we have one egg, right? Every month. You have multiple chances to impregnate someone. It is your reproductive organs that make us pregnant.
Yeah,
And
we're
it has
limited
been
by a
shifted.
refractory period, and that's it.
Right. But it has been so twisted around that we're where we are,
Hmm.
and so those are the two things. If we can like change the culture and the language around it.
Right, and I think we need to like consent is so missed in that
That
discussion. Like
too. Yeah.
it's like men feel like we're still in this era where like just the tip winds up with babies. Um we're in this thing where if you can coerce a woman enough to
Mm-hmm.
reluctantly say yes, then then we didn't coerce them.
Oh
No.
yeah.
And it's
Big
there
time.
was there was a post. I wish I could remember. I wish I had it pulled up the exact phrasing of it, but something about asking women about how many times they had sex when they didn't want to, and you're not ready to have that conversation. Like, you know, I think there is a risk that men don't understand, that when a woman has to say no, or feels like they want to say no, or just don't want to do it, they have to weigh the potential for violence.
Yes.
And men don't realize that. So we also have to own the coercion and the conditioning and everything else.
Absolutely.
To get to that point of, well, she didn't necessarily. Oh, how many times have women been talked into not using protection because it just doesn't feel as good, and things like that.
Yep.
And it's like that. And women, we've been conditioning women since before the written language. We don't know when it started. I guarantee it was around the start of agriculture where women became property. The idea that, okay, well, if a man pressures you enough, you need to give in.
Yeah, and I can absolutely attest to that personally. But also sorry, I lost my thought. So that is, yes. Okay. So that is a whole segment or a whole topic in this realm. So if you talk about the forced birthers and how they, it is very black and white for them. It is women are sluts, and they, close your legs. If I had $1 for every time I heard that, which by the way, my snappy response is always, well, that's the best, that's how you give the best orgasms. You've obviously never given a woman an orgasm. Then, that's the best position. What are you talking about?
That's a whole other thing, too. The amount of men who tell on themselves that they have no clue.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
My God. It's like, dude, you said that out loud.
Yeah, but that's the arrogance. That is the arrogance and the culture of, I'm sorry, please forgive me because you're not in I always say this to my husband. I'm not talking about you. But my God, I always say, if I could channel the energy of a mediocre white man, I could run the world. There is an amazing amount of the arrogance. But anyway, but yeah, that is very much erased. There's so many things erased, like coercion, like you talked about, that there are birth control deserts, just like there are food deserts, there's an access issue, there's financial issues, there's, like you said, the violence issue there. I mean, just being drugged, being I was in one of my first experiences. I have such a naive little thing, but freshman in college, and nothing happened, but I went to a frat party, and I was drinking, of course, and just things so I was there with my best friend Patty, and we were aware that our drinks were always full, and the guys they'd barely sit on theirs, but they're drink up. We're drinking, and they'd always fill our hand with the drink, and then we're we got separated. My friend she went with some guy. I saw her, Dan, and the guy I was with took me into his room. Hey, let's go talk. And we're sitting in there and it's gonna, making out a little bit. I'm like, I gotta find my friend. I gotta find my friend. I was really concerned about her. I got up, the door was locked from the inside. And I'm like, what the hell? Let me out, and again, nothing happened. But these are things that, when you live a little privileged, religious life and your arranged marriage or whatever, you don't know that these things happen. And I was lucky. I mean, my God, I can't even think about it. Other women have been through that, the whole ordeal. And again, our reproductive organs don't make us pregnant. We can't spontaneously, as much as they love Mary, we can't, spontaneously have a child, right? It takes a man. And I love where they're well, it takes two. Yeah, sure. But, but men are overwhelmingly the ones that assault and rape, and sorry, I shouldn't say that word, but,
oh no, it needs to be said.
Yeah. I mean,
that's one of my huge tangent. It's one of the things that, got me banned in the first place on Instagram was I got tired of having to say grape. We are so discouraged from having an adult conversation about this because they just want it to go away. And, we need to change the narrative from this thing where access to sexual activity with a woman is some sort of conquest. We need to change that entire narrative.
The whole pickup artist thing.
Yeah, whether you get it by coercion, by lying, by force, that needs to go away because that is inherently wrong. And just being a human being and getting to know people has worked a lot for me in my life. And like,
Good.
just
Yeah.
try it. You know what? You're saying you're not having so much luck with relationships or finding people, but they do the same crap every time. It's the same script they follow, and it's the script of conquest, and it's so counterproductive.
Well, and let's talk about the dangers of the right-wing podcast bros and all of that whole culture. I mean, that's a whole other thing. And I can very much see how a young man would be seduced by that. And it's a big deal. And I feel like as much as I hate on men, and in my spaces, it's hard not to do that. I feel very deeply for men as well, because I think we both, like all of us have led to this point. Like everything we've done and the ways we've interacted have led to this point. And I hate to blame men completely, because we have been conditioned a certain way too, like I said, in the way we interact. Young women, and in some ways, like I am glad that women are empowered. And I was always very like, the way I was brought up, I was taught about reproduction. I was taught all the things early. I hated it, but also I wasn't, repressed, and I had a very healthy sex life, and I don't mind saying that. But now there's so much like, and young women got to that point where they're like, hey, why can men have lots of sex and I can't? Why is that? And so, but they're still being, what's your body count is the new thing they say. And the young women are still being, slut shamed. And it's like, when is this going to end? When can we actually have equality? And by the way, one thing I did want to say on this public forum, at least, is feminism isn't like a bunch of blue-haired, lesbians sitting around, man, saga, whatever. It's people who believe women, like you said, are whole human beings who deserve to be equally protected under the law. That's it. That's what feminism is. It's not, and so I hate like the forced birth, the shysters, as I call them, the grifters, like Kristen Mercer Hawkins of Students for Life. And she's a GOP operative. They're all operatives. They're fundraising mechanisms of the GOP. I hope people get to understand that, but they don't give a shit about their message, honestly. But she'll be railing against feminists, these women, just railing, using it as a wedge point, with feminists and their abortion. That's not, it's just, it's all the messaging. They've won the messaging war, and we've got to figure out how to get together on our messaging and just be more like, just realize what they're doing and not play their games.
Yeah, let's talk about the collaboration stuff we were just about to talk to. But
Yes.
I want to.
Good transition.
Do you have a moment for a mind blowing metaphor?
Absolutely. Always.
Financial seminars. These people who are setting up these financial seminars are not going to give you the best secrets in order for you to get actually wealthy on the stock market. They're going to give you just enough information to have you feed the system. They're basically building an army of obedient suckers who are going to go out and feed money into this system and not necessarily win all that much. If these guys were good at it, they wouldn't be wasting their time teaching you. There's a reason they're teaching you this stuff. Now, when it comes down to giving these impressionable guys dating advice, this really works out twofold. You're creating a bunch of obedient people who are going to listen to you, but you're also normalizing this terrible behavior to the point where women go, well, maybe that's just what men are like. And that's kind of the point. They're going to send out all these guys. This is not going to work for them.
Yeah.
But they're going to be so awful that it's going to ruin their chances with women. But it's also going to normalize that these other guys who maybe have, they can flash around whatever and try and be super confident and everything. And maybe they're less obnoxious a little bit than the other guys that they've told what to go do. But it just normalizes awfulness and to a point where it lets awfulness fly because that's what's out there. And, these guys really got to think, these impressionable young men have got to think, is this really good advice I'm getting? Or is this meant to keep me locked in this position I'm in?
Exactly. Yeah. No, I'm with you. And yeah, it's so, yeah. And again, I don't want to go off on this topic, but it's so bizarre to me that and I don't know how, like, what's the word? I don't know if this is an outlier. That's the word. But I've seen the whole, like, if you're dating a woman, you're gay. Like, it's gotten that, like you're effeminate, or I don't know,
Right.
something. Like, if you're even dating a woman, you're gay. Like, wait, what? Just doesn't
Oh
make
yeah.
sense.
I
But
mean,
I don't know if
I don't
that's
know
an
if,
outlier, but
no, I mean, I don't know if you've listened to my second episode yet, but we really dive into that whole
I
thing.
start. Yeah, I started it. I'm gonna finish because yeah,
Yeah.
she was awesome. She
Oh
was really
yeah,
cool.
but we really
Yeah.
got into the idea of competitive masculinity and how it's this
Yeah.
constant. Yeah, I'm not going to get into it too much, but yeah, take a listen to that.
I would love to. Yeah, I will. I will for sure.
It's this ridiculous level of it's an unwinnable race, but it keeps you focused on this target that they've told you to focus on.
And I really think it goes back to way at the beginning. I think you were talking about empathy, and like if we could just learn to teach empathy somehow. I don't know how to do it, but maybe this is it. Maybe it's your podcast. It's like it's talking and getting to know people on a
Hmm.
more personal level. Because I had all these trolls who this is a and I we don't have too much time left, and I want to get back to your collab, but there are these trolls who found those articles about me, and they made up an entire narrative about me thinking I was all of these anonymous accounts that I wasn't. It's a weird story. It's very weird. I was a whole like I was right. I don't know. I was like in a motorcycle gang, and I sexually assaulted my cat, and I was supposed to be in jail, but I mean it like, and I can't even, I have all the screenshots, and at some point I'll do something with it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it, but it is insane. And I'm like, I couldn't tell it. And I think this is real. These are people who are in the forced to birth world, and they love these fantasies. And I don't know if it's an obsession with like they actually want to be us and be free, like we talked about. And I don't know. Um,
It's a little bit of that and a little bit of the inability to understand complexity and nuance.
yeah, right. And the lack of empathy, like I said. And so I was just this it was weird. It was so weird. I was like this whole thing that I don't even know how to explain it. It was like, oh, there's a great book, by the way. Naomi Klein, not Wolf, Naomi Klein. Make sure you guys look up Naomi Klein. She did a book about, oh, I can't remember it, but I'll give it to you and maybe you can put it in your show notes. Amazing. During COVID, it was about losing your identity because she was mistaken for this woman, Naomi Wolf, who used to be a liberal and like an author. But then she went down the COVID anti-vax wormhole, and just went crazy. And she was being mistaken for that person. And a lot of that was happening during that time where just there was all this online weirdness during COVID and stuff. Anyway, totally, I was just this person. I had nothing to do with what they were making up, and there's just no empathy. And I feel like if they actually listened to this, with you, they might
Hmm.
be like, oh, she's a real person. Like, I
Yes,
may not agree with her, but she has a life, and,
that's
she's,
literally the whole point of this is to
and I love
humanize.
it. I love
Yeah.
it.
So we were talking about collaboration, and I kind of
Yes.
went off on a rant. I'm driving back from getting some lunch, and it burned me the whole way there. And I think we were talking something about the idea that there's this method. I'm not going to waste too much time getting it. There's a method in getting people out of shadow bans, and it involves
Hmm.
really just aggressively pumping up engagement. And it
Yes.
works on a small scale. I've had it work for me many times because I run my mouth and I know how to get out of jail. Um, but the problem is that when I have a couple hundred followers, like on my other account, it worked because the engagement was high. But I'm looking at these. I try to get the same thing going with I think 3 or 4 different people who had gotten stuck in a shadow ban,
Yeah.
and like
Yeah.
5 people maybe stepped up to help. And it
Ugh.
takes like 10, 20 people on the small end to get this going. How did it not wind up with hundreds or thousands of people trying to get them out? And that's where that kind of thing would happen. And it just really struck me that there's everything is all. Oh, I'm sorry. You want to go ahead and say
Oh
something?
no, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I can just tell you from my experience, and I wanted to apologize. I'm one of those people who didn't step up because you did send me a couple of those. I was so swamped. I couldn't. It was this week when I was organizing, and so that could be part of it. Just people are busy and inundated with all kinds of stuff. But I will definitely help. Yeah, you're keep going
Oh,
though. Yeah, keep
it
going.
doesn't it doesn't matter if it's a big or small account. It's just that people are talking about it. It could be somebody with two
Yeah,
followers and a couple
yeah.
of connections. If so many people start there's multipliers you can use for engagement, and all it would take is a couple hundred people doing this. And I would love to see this
great,
test
yeah.
run, and I've yet to have people engage enough to see if this works on a larger scale. But I would love to see what happens if an account that maybe has 60,000 followers, if 1,000 of those 60,000 followers jumped in and did this setup, I bet you it would just rocket them straight out of a shadow ban.
Yeah.
But I can't, it surprises me how many people are passively engaged in this resistance at all. Yay, resistance, all this other stuff. Yay, these people are doing these things. But it's completely passive consumption.
I think I'm so glad you brought this up. So I have been thinking, like, this is where we are. We're on these stupid social media platforms. We can move over to, whatever, the next one, and it could be a little more ethical, but we still have the problem of, like, I can't get people engaged. And like Instagram used to give me great engagement. Now I'm like completely suppressed because they hate me, but
It means you're doing the right things.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I think so. But no, I think that needs to be a new conversation. And like you said, I want more people writing it, like some of the independent journalists, if they could start talking about it, is because we have to be on, I'm not on Twitter, but they are on Twitter. Exactly what you're talking about. How do we not just come together and protest at a Capitol building, but how do we come together in these freaking spaces where they're actively banning? And I can tell you on good authority that from one of my contacts, absolutely all of the pretty much all of the independent reviewers have been moved to Texas. They're all MAGAs. They are actively targeting us at this point, and that's clear. And so how do we resist that? Do we sit around and we'll just go to all these different, we're just going to be dispersed? That's a great way to divide us yet again, isn't it? Is let's get, we're going to get off Twitter and have all the Nazis take over. And, so how do we stop them and then use their weapon against them? I love that. And we'll have to talk offline more and see if we can figure out the code or go ahead. Yeah.
I was just going to say, the reason why I actually thought about walking away from meta platforms too, the reason I'm on there is if you look at the subscriber base, the majority of people are on Meta, more so than Twitter, more so than Blue Sky, more so than TikTok. Well, maybe not TikTok. I don't know. I'm not on there. The idea is you have to go where the people are. And if you want to change minds on a large scale, John and Jane, average person who may not know all of this is going on, is on Facebook looking at pictures of cats. They're on Instagram looking at travel pictures. They're doing whatever. If you want to reach where the people are, you have to kind of walk through the swamp. You got to go through places where you may not want to go, that may not welcome you, and you have to not care that you're not welcome there. You have to be there anyways. You have to be there, not only not care about it, but be there in spite of it, and because you're not wanted there.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly where you need to be. If they don't want you there because you're threatening the narrative that is beneficial to the few, they're not going to want you there. So no kidding. They're trying to suppress all of this, and that's exactly why we need to be there, and that's exactly why we need to, in the larger sense that people are saying we're going to need to support each other in communities in real life. Right. We are going to need to be the support structure that has been removed from some of these places where all the people are. We're going to have to do that for ourselves. We can't rely on the automation to do that anymore.
Yep. I am so down with this. And thank you again for bringing that up, because that was like a real aha moment. I think and you were like, it's because of you actually that I think you did knock my shadow ban loose, or however you want to put it, by helping me out with that stuff. It was you and I think some other people. There's another person who wanted to collaborate on something, and I think it was that letter writing campaign, and so it's working, and I've noticed that more people are starting to do that. So I think it could really catch on. So I think you're onto something big time. So we'll keep working on that. But I did want to tell you, we're at I think I scheduled a couple hours and we are pretty much there.
Yeah, and I feel like there's way more to talk about, but maybe some other time.
Happy to do it any other time. But in the meantime, yeah, keep doing what you're doing. It's so important, Shane. And I'm glad hopefully we can be friends and help each other out. And yeah, I'm gonna really look into that. Thank you for bringing that
Yeah.
up. That's
And
awesome.
thank you for being a guest on the If Men Can't Listen To podcast. And thank you for having me as a guest on yours.
Absolutely. I hope we can continue our collab in the future.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.